The Democratic Republic of Congo's President-elect Felix Tshisekedi is set to be sworn in as the country's fifth president at a ceremony in the capital, Kinshasa. More than 15 heads of state and government expected to grace that event. The DRC leader was re-elected in polls that many Congolese opposition figures have described as a sham. For more on this, let's bring in SABC News correspondent Chris Ocamringa. Chris, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thanks indeed for your time. So President Tshisekedi came into power in a disputed election, which has caused some division in the country. What are the immediate challenges that he will have to deal with as he starts this second term?
Well, first of all, the president will have to unite the Congolese people because, like you mentioned, there have been divisions following the elections of December last year. There are people in the opposition who have a large following who have described this election as a sham, and they want people to, take to the streets and kind of have a civil disobedience. So the president is going to have to, to bring all these people on board to kind of form a national unity government to take the country forward. But we have heard that he has already got a majority in parliament, so we're waiting to see how he will, form his new government in the next months to come. He also has to deal with the big problem of poverty in the DRC. This is a country that's endowed with a lot of mineral resources. It has a very large population, about 100 million people, and most of these people are living in poverty despite having all this natural wealth in the country. The conflict in the east of the country is another key issue that the president will have to deal with. The M23 rebels have captured a number of territories in that area, and there seems to be a stalemate. Both the government and the rebels are not willing to go to the negotiating table. They seem determined to want a military solution to this conflict. And so there is many people in the DRC are hoping that the president will be able to find a way of dealing with that insecurity in eastern Congo.
Absolutely. That was my next point there, Chris. I mean, what are we likely to hear about his plans to resolve that conflict which has been raging on in the east of the DRC, which has obviously strained relations with some countries, in the East African community? What are we likely to hear, if at all, anything today?
Yes, that conflict has really strained relations with members of the East African community, and that's because, this regional bloc sent troops last year to help the DRC to restore peace in the east of the country. But these forces, according to the DRC government, were not fighting the rebels. They came here to kind of monitor a ceasefire, and that made the Congolese population very unhappy. They were saying these are troops that have equipment, they have very sophisticated weapons, but they are not fighting against the rebels. So people were saying, what's the point of us having them here in our country? They put a lot of pressure, and the president decided to order them to leave the country. And now they have invited the troops from the Southern African Development Community. These are troops from South Africa, Malawi and Tanzania, and the commander of these forces is South Africa. Now the Congolese government feels more comfortable dealing with the Southern African Development Bloc community, which they have been working with much longer. They are very suspicious of some of the leaders of the East African community, particularly Rwanda, which they accuse of supporting the M23 rebels, and other countries like Kenya, which hosted the former electoral commission, who announced a new rebellion in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. So their relations have really been strained, but some of the leaders of these East African communities, the community, were invited to attend the inauguration of the president. Some of them sent representatives, others are going to be here in person.
Chris Ocamringa, thank you very much indeed.